Hello and welcome to Around the Clock. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. On today's show, we have an interview with Alexandra Tokar. She is one of two Massachusetts students. She is an Ashland High School student who is going down to Washington, D.C. as part of the United States Senate Youth Program. We're going to talk to her about what it means to have won the scholarship and what she's hoping to do while she's in D.C. We also have some sports highlights as some of our teams head off to playoffs as they finish up their season. We have information on a finance committee meeting that happened earlier this week. And of course, we have the select board update for the meeting that happened on Wednesday, March 1st. So stay with us as I bring you Around the Clock. Okay. Hello and welcome to Around the Clock. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. Today in the studio, we are speaking with Alexandra Tokar, a senior at Ashland High School. Alexandra, welcome to Around the Clock.
Thank you.
Now, we have you here for a very special reason. You are one of only two students in the state of Massachusetts to win and be invited to the U.S. Senate Youth Program. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What did it feel like when you found out that you were one of two winners of students in Massachusetts for that program?
It was a little bit surprising. I mean, when I found out I made it to the semifinals, I was very excited. And then I got a phone call right before I was leaving for my dance class, actually. And I accidentally missed the phone call because it was an unknown number, so I wasn't sure. And then I got a voicemail from the coordinator. So I was hoping she didn't call me to tell me that I didn't get the scholarship. But it was very exciting, and the DC trip is an amazing opportunity, and getting a scholarship is amazing because paying for college is something that I'm thinking a lot about in my senior year.
So now we've heard that excitement. Let's go back a little bit. How long have you been living here in Ashland?
I've been living here my whole life, so 17 years, almost 18 now.
Okay. The program is related to interested in politics, political science. What was the first thing that you did that led you on this path?
Well, I've been a student representative for my class since I was a freshman, and then I switched to being vice president my sophomore year, and I've been vice president since then. But I was always kind of interested in political science because I was planning on going to law school, and then so I kind of went on the political science track for college. And then last year with the Russia-Ukraine war, I started looking a lot more at international politics because my dad grew up in Ukraine. So I kind of started doing a lot more research about international politics. So since then, I've been more on the path of international politics.
And so international politics looking to do as a politician, as a representative, or what was the first event or thing that you did that got you more involved, other than the student representative?
So I am looking to go into international human rights, and one of the things that got me involved in that was last year with the Russia-Ukraine war, I learned about the sexual violence that was going on in Ukraine. And the rape of Ukrainian women and men by Russian soldiers. And then I started doing more research about it because I was confused as to why there wasn't more information about it and more reporting about it. And I realized that it's been an issue in almost every major conflict, and it's really not something that's spoken about. So I started doing a lot more research on that. And so now I want to go into the prosecution of sexual violence internationally. And I'm focusing on something that Arminka Helik, who's in the British House of Lords, proposed, which is creating an independent international body to prosecute sexual violence in conflict, since it's so often not prosecuted and survivors don't get justice, and then it keeps happening since there's no accountability. But so I want to go into that internationally, and then for that, with a club that I started last year to help survivors of sexual and domestic violence and to spread awareness, we kind of worked to spread awareness about the issues, and we also did a fundraiser to help survivors of sexual violence in Ukraine.
And is it an issue that you've seen locally that you're also trying to support, or just the international aspect?
No, I've done locally too. With my club, we do focus more locally, and I think I've noticed just in general there's kind of a lack of education about rape culture and about sexual and domestic violence and sexual assault in general, not just in Ashland, but just that's something I've been focused on, about spreading more information about it, and that's kind of what I wrote my essay on for the United States Senate Youth Program.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about the United States Senate Youth Program. What is this, and what are you going to be offered, or how is this going to launch you, this program?
So the United States Senate Youth Program is a one-week trip to Washington, D.C., where there are 2 delegates from every state, or 2 delegates representing every state, and you participate in kind of a week of activities in D.C., including meeting with some senators, some cabinet members, I think a justice of the Supreme Court, and the President of the United States, and then it also comes with a $10,000 scholarship. So I'm very excited to be meeting with all of these people, and then also to be receiving a scholarship, and to kind of also meet with all of the delegates there, and just with all of the alumni of the network and alumni of the program. I just think it's a really amazing opportunity, and I've already been able to meet with 2 of the delegates from 2 years ago. So it's been great to already be talking to people and connecting with people who have been in the program.
And we all know that it's a lot of times what you know, but it's also who you know. So that's great. But what you know got you to this point. What was the process like to get to this point? What did you have to do, and how much work was it?
So first, I had to be in an elected position in my school in order to qualify. So I used being the vice president to qualify. And then I wrote an essay, and there was a bunch of different essay topics, but I talked about, there was one that said if you could draft any legislation, like as the youngest member of the Massachusetts Senate, I think, what would it be? And so I talked about creating a mandatory curriculum for teaching about sexual assault and domestic violence and rape culture in schools, and making that a standardized and mandatory curriculum. And then after that, I was invited for an interview, and I had an interview with 2 people from the Hearst Foundation, which sponsors this program. And then after that, I was told that I was selected.
Wow. Do you know how many students applied from Massachusetts?
I think it was 56, but I'm not totally sure.
Just 56 students total?
Yes, I'm not totally sure.
But it's pretty selective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the vice president of your class, and now for some people they might not have been in school for a while. What is that like here in Ashland, to be part of student body, or to be part of an elected position in your school?
So for us, we focus a lot on our class events, and so there's kind of 2 parts to it, and part of it is being involved in the student council, which focuses on school-wide events. So for that, I've done a lot of help with planning the Pumpkin Festival, which we had this year, and just doing credits and being involved in some of the setup and running of a lot of the events that the student council puts on. But then we also have our class events, which is what we're more focused on. So last year we planned our school prom, and it's a lot of fundraising, and then this year our main focus is senior week, so we're also doing a lot of fundraising for that.
Right. So senior week, what does that entail?
So basically it's a week for seniors at the end of the year leading up to graduation, where there's different activities every day. So this year I believe we're doing a boat cruise, which happens every year, and then a senior banquet. And then I believe we're doing a Six Flags trip too, but we're just hoping that it works out with the weather.
Right. And of course, graduation rehearsals.
Right, graduation rehearsals, Chromebook returns, and all of the logistic aspects.
We all know for a person to be well-rounded, you have to do other things besides all this academic work that you do. What do you do for fun, or what do you do outside of school?
I do some volunteering, so I volunteer at the Ashland Farmers Market, which I really enjoy, and at Home to Homes, which is a local donations shelter. Yep. So I volunteered there as well, and then also I've been dancing for pretty much my entire life, but I just recently kind of took a step back from that. But I'm also on Senator Spilka's Youth Advisory Council.
Oh, nice.
And so from that, I've been able to meet some people that are doing things with state politics, so I've kind of been able to get involved a little bit with that.
So I do have to let people know I've known Alexander on and off since she was 3 as a dance student. So it's nice to know that it's nice to see that you've kept that up. Do you think you're going to try and allow that to be part of your life moving forward?
I think it's always going to be a part of my life, and I'm also, from dance, I got involved with the Hopkinton Center for the Arts and being on the teen advisory board there.
Oh, nice.
So that's one way that I've kind of stayed involved with the arts without really being at dance, and I think I'll take some classes in college, just like drop-in classes, and I've still, every once in a while, I'll go back to Dancing Arts Center, and I've taken a class there since I came back, and I think I'll always be involved with the community and happy to help volunteer. I'm just not in the pre-professional program and like dancing there regularly anymore.
Yeah, because the pre-professional there is pretty tough, but
yeah,
good. So next step is you go to Washington, D.C., and you go there for the week. What is the one thing you're most looking forward to about that opportunity?
I would say I'm really looking forward to meeting all of the other delegates, because it's really not every day that you get to meet people from every state and people with different viewpoints and opinions than your own. And it's just not something I get to do a lot of in Massachusetts. So just interacting with all of these people that are interested in the same things as me, but also that are coming from different perspectives than I am. And then the way I grew up is going to be really interesting.
Is there anything that you're a little hesitant about with this trip?
I mean, it's a big trip and I'm meeting a lot of important people, so I guess I'm just worried I'll run into someone and not know who they are.
Got a little cheat sheet with pictures. And yeah. Good. Well, Alexander, first of all, congratulations. This is quite an honor, and I think for Ashland to have you representing it at the state level and at the federal level, I think, is an amazing thing. I look forward to catching up with you after the trip, and maybe we'll see how everything went, and we'll get to see some pictures. So there is one more question I have for you, and this is a question I ask all first-time visitors to Around the Clock. Is there something about you, Alexander Tokar, that not many people may know that you'd be willing to share with our viewers?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I really like fashion, and that's something that's a little bit outside of my realm of interest and what we've been talking about today. So I used to sew a lot when I was little, and now that's kind of more translated just into fashion in general. So
nice.
I guess that's something.
You never know, international fashion, or could be.
Not exactly the direction I'm going, but maybe just for fun.
Good. Well, Alexander, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with us. Good luck on the trip. And again, congratulations. I think for you to represent Ashland at this level is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And enjoy your trip.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. And that wraps up this interview with Around the Clock. Hello, welcome back to Around the Clock. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. It's time for the Select Board update for the meeting that happened on Wednesday, March 1st. We did start at 6:15 with executive session to discuss a few items. We then went into open session at 7 o'clock, and the Planning Board joined us for our first item. We discussed a request to change the covenant for the Wildwood area. This is related to the new project going in at 100 Chestnut Street. In the old covenant that was originally signed and approved back in 2002, the developer was only allowed to build 100 units per year. And as these were townhomes, it felt that it was best to slow and keep that a steady pace. What's happening now is 100 Chestnut Street is a 174 unit apartment building, and they need to be able to build it all at once. So through some discussion, we have decided to update the covenant so that they can do all of their construction at once. From there, we went into old and new business. Based on some things that have happened with the planning board, we as a committee reviewed our common viticular license. These are licenses for people who are food providers. And we typically do the renewal on an annual basis. And we just reviewed our process for how we do new licenses. And we've made some tweaks to that. It'll come back to our next meeting and we'll approve it at that point. We then discussed the creating of the property restriction working group. As the town purchases property, a lot of the times we have to either put open space restrictions or conservation restrictions or some kind of restriction on the property. We don't currently have a restriction working group, so we discussed possibility of reinstating that, or could it be something that our CPC committee, who already has a lot of representatives from different committees, could possibly do. So that will also be moving forward to one of our future meetings. We discussed the deadline for submitting warrant articles for our May town meeting. May town meeting is the first Wednesday in May. And articles, if you'd like to submit one, the deadline for that, or at least to tell us the intent, was Friday, March 3rd. We discussed to open the Select Board High School Scholarship. We also voted to increase the scholarship. So as of this year, we will be giving $2,000 to 2 separate students who are Ashland seniors, meaning they reside here in Ashland, and they don't have to go to school here in Ashland, but they have to reside here in Ashland as their primary residence. So Ashland High School students, Keefe Tech High School students, charter school, private school, you can apply for those scholarships if you are a senior, and they will be available on the website as well as through our guidance, the Ashland High School Guidance Department. From there, we discussed the town council evaluation process and timeline. We are going to be each individual select board member does their review of the town council. That comes compiled by the chair, reviewed with town council and our town manager. We were also going to be adding our town manager evaluation before middle of May. We decided to we always host a breakfast for our marathon runners. Those are the people who get the Ashland numbers and are out running and racing and training, as well as raising funds for our BAA program. That is held the Saturday before the marathon. This year that will be April 15th. We discussed a celebration of the history of the Boston Marathon. This year marks the 100th anniversary that the last marathon started in Ashland. So in 1823 was the last time the Boston Marathon started in Ashland, and the 26.2 Foundation out of Hopkinton is having a celebration, and they invited some of us from Ashland to go and help celebrate that. We had a discussion about the Quiet Zone. Our Quiet Zone is on the TIP, which is the Transportation Infrastructure Program. It was on for 2024 due to some funding. It's being looked to be pushed out to 2025. We are going to allow that because not all of our design work is done, and it takes a little while to get the design completed. We then discussed hosting a volunteer breakfast, and we are potentially going to be doing that on May 6th. So all volunteers who are either appointed by the Ashland Select Board or are elected are invited to that. We approved our consent agenda, and then we went into our priority projects. Downtown, again, under the railroad tracks is just about done. They're not digging anymore. Also, the weather has sort of stopped some of the work. As weather improves and things can get done, you'll start seeing a little more work on some of the roads and some of the streetscapes. Also, what's happening is we are working on the connections from underground to the buildings. And then hopefully once all that is done by the end of the year, we'll start seeing telephone poles come down, and we're expecting the final work to be done in spring of 2024. Public safety building, there's some movement there as well. They finally have the tracks and the materials needed to get those doors moving that are on the fire apparatus bays. The tracks are just about in, then an electrician will come in and put the power to it. So very possibly by next week, those doors will be working. At the same time, we're still in the process of getting the correct doors designed and put in. The police are looking to move into the new public safety building sometime in the middle of March, and the fire department will be following soon after, probably sometime in early April. and the Public Safety Committee is in the process of determining when they're going to have an open house and ribbon cutting and celebration of this wonderful new public safety facility. Not much going on. Valentine Project, if you drive by, you'll see what you can see is that they are working on the foundation and things there are moving forward. Mendez School, the outside, they're still doing some work as well. Inside, a lot of painting and pieces of furniture and things like that are getting in. The deadline for the Mendez, of course, is August for the start of the school year, and they are still on track. From there, we moved into our town manager reports. We had a great discussion about the fiscal 24 budget. On Wednesday, March 8th, there is going to be a tri-board meeting. A tri-board meeting is the members of the select board, the school committee, and the finance committee coming together to discuss the next year's budget. So that will be our fiscal 24 budget. We also discussed a budget workshop that was held at Town Hall about 2 weeks ago on a Friday morning, where all the town department heads presented their needs for additional personnel, additional services, and additional possible supplies. There was a discussion and an update. The Upper Charles Trail, as you know, is still moving forward, even though it's a little bit slowly. And there was a site walk done with Michael Herbert, our town manager, as well as a couple of members from our Upper Charles Trail, as well as some members of regional in Sherborne and Framingham, looking at how we can connect the Dyke Trail, which is off of Route 126, through some of the CSX into Sherborne. That is still moving forward. We had some graffiti incidents in town. We had some at Stone Park. We had some in the town forest. Our police department has identified some of these individuals who have done this, and they are in the process of trying to resolve this. If you see something, say something. If you see a student, or not a student, if you see someone creating graffiti, take their picture, give it to the Ashland Police, because it's important that we keep our buildings clean and safe. And that was the meeting for March, let me check the date again, March 1st. The next meeting will be on Wednesday, March 15th. Thanks for watching the Select Board Meeting Update. Our next update is for ice hockey, our boys team. This was at Loring Arena, where they were also in the playoffs. They were playing against Littleton, and the Ashland boys varsity hockey took this game as well with a score of 4-3. Their next game in the playoffs will be down in Bourne, and we want to thank Bob Savin for doing a great play-by-play for our boys hockey here on WACA-TV.
Came out with it, tied up in the corner, squirts loose, Reardon trying to get to it, shot from the point, sails way wide into the corner, kept in, and we've got a penalty.
Game over.
Thought there was a penalty, it was the final whistle, eh?
I think that was it. The bodies were sliding everywhere. Littleton got a good shot.
What a crazy finish, but the Clockers hold on. They were up 4-1 at one point in this third period. Littleton made it close. Your final score tonight, 4-3, and the Clockers advance in the MIAA playoffs here in Loring Arena.
It is budget season here in Ashland, as it is across the state. And our finance committee has been having their meetings, and WACA was able to broadcast live their last in-depth meeting. The meeting had 4 departments presenting, as well as our finance director, Brittany Iacopone. So Chief Rossi from our police department, Chief Roby from our fire department, Mina John from our library, our director there, and Doug Small, our director of Department of Public Works. All 4 presented in depth what their needs are and what they're looking to do with their departments for fiscal year 24. If you're interested, it would be great to go and watch and see what our department heads are up against in regards to salaries, costs, insurance, and what they're trying to provide to the town of Ashland. I know for our library director, she is looking to increase the number of hours and programming that is available at our library. From our police department and our fire department, they're looking to add some extra bodies in regards to having some first responders out on the streets. And of course, from our public works department, look at our roads, our sidewalks. They're always trying to do more for the town of Ashland.